On the outside, you look like a fully functioning adult. You pay bills, you hold things together. But on the inside, sometimes you're still waiting for someone to come and tell you what to do next. Still wondering if you're doing life right. Still wondering if everybody got a manual that didn't get to you. Still shrinking in rooms where you should feel confident. Still apologizing for taking up space. If any of that sounds familiar, this episode is for you because today we are talking about self worth, identity, about what it means to actually grow into yourself as an adult. Welcome back to Real Talk Adulthood, the podcast we have honest conversations nobody had with us while we're growing up. I'm Penny, and you're welcome to season 2, episode 10. In this season, we've talked about money, we've talked about friendships, we've talked about career purpose, and today we'll be talking about self worth. Who am I and am I enough? Here's something I think most of us adults struggle with, even though we are least likely to admit it. Imposter syndrome. That feeling of I don't deserve everything I have today, that feeling of I only got lucky, and the terrifying part that one day someone might figure out that you have no idea what you're doing. And the truth is, it doesn't really go away with success. For some people, the more they achieve, the louder that voice becomes. And underneath that imposter syndrome is a shaky sense and feeling of self worth, often formed very early in life, that your value is conditional, that you are worthy of love and respect only when you're performing well, only when you are useful, only when you're not too much or too little. A lot of us grew up in environments that, without meaning to, they actually tied our sense of worth to our performance. Good grades meant you were a good child. Doing exactly what your parents wanted meant you are a good child. You should be loved, you should be adored, you should be cherished. Achievement meant you should take up space. And so we grew up without learning something fundamental. And that is the fact that you are worthy only because you exist, not because you got good grades, not because you obeyed, not because you achieved, not because you brought value, not because you are useful, not because you're too much, not because you're too little, but simply because you exist. And that is not a small thing to unlearn, but it is one of the most important things an adult can do. There are three things about identity and self worth I wish someone had told me before I spent years trying to figure it out the hard way. The first one is your identity is not fixed. Who you are is not a destination that you arrive at and then you stay there forever. Sometimes your identity evolves, sometimes you change, sometimes you outgrow a version of yourself that people knew. Through the experiences you have, through the choices you make, and through the ones you don't make, through growth, you evolve and you become a different version of yourself. A lot of adults feel stuck because they are still operating from an identity that existed only in childhood. And that identity was shaped by what their family needed them to be, what society needed them to be, what their classmates needed them to be, what the environments they grew in needed them to be, and by what kept them safe. But you are allowed to outgrow that version of yourself. You are allowed to become someone new at any age and at any given time. I used to feel really bad when someone walk up to me and tell me that you've changed. I now start to feel like, oh, I've become a bad person. I've become someone different. But then I've grown to understand that most times people use the word you've changed when you no longer portray a version of you they used to know. Probably that version of you used to be very beneficial to them, used to do things the way they wanted, used to favor them, and all of a sudden you've become a version of yourself that says no, that sets boundaries, and then they are not okay with it. And they come up with the statement, you've changed, not in a way that makes you feel good about yourself, but in a way that makes you feel like a bad person. But I've gotten to understand that it's okay to change. And when people tell me you've changed, I smile and I take it as a cue that I am actually doing better. I'm actually growing to become a version of myself that I want to be, not a version of myself that people used to know or people want me to be. So don't let anybody ever make you feel bad for becoming the version of yourself that you want to become. The second thing is that self-worth is built, it is not discovered. Self-worth is not something innate that is buried inside you that you have to keep searching and one day you will find it. Your self-worth as a person is something that you put in time, you put in work, and you put a lot of effort building. Your self-worth is who you become by the conscious choices you make and the ones that you do not make. Healthy self-worth is something you build through integrity, through keeping the promises that you made to yourself, through doing the hard things and surviving them. Every time you did what you said you would do, even when nobody is watching, you are building a foundation of how you see yourself. And that is not magic, it is practice. The third thing is people pleasing is self abandonment. So many adults have spent so many years managing other people's feelings, shrinking to make other people feel comfortable, saying yes when they really meant to say no. They have completely lost track of who they are and what they actually want because they are scared of what will people think, what will people say, how will people react. People pleasing may feel like kindness, but don't confuse it. People pleasing is fear. There's a difference when you show kindness to people and you compromise on doing things just so the other person feel loved and comforted. And when you're consistently trying to please, trying to get validation from other people. People pleasing can also be a result of the fear that if you show up as who you really are, you will not be accepted. But learning to disappoint people gracefully, to hold your boundaries without apologizing and take up the space you deserve without shrinking to please others, that is not selfishness, that is self respect. So, how do you start building self identity and self worth as an adult? Here are four simple places to start. The first thing is get to know yourself with curiosity, not judgment. Don't create a wall or a boundary around what people expect you to be, but get to know yourself genuinely. What do you enjoy? What do you want to enjoy? What do you want to be? Who are you right now? Who do you want to be? These questions are a foundation of an adult life. Don't take them lightly. The second thing is keep the promises that you make to yourself, no matter how little it is, no matter how difficult. Yeah, sometimes you might make a promise to yourself and then you start, it gets difficult, or people don't understand why you're doing the things you do. You get mocked, you get talked down on. But as long as it's a promise that you made to yourself, you owe it to yourself to see it through until you achieve it, until you see the result, good or bad. Fulfilling promises that you made to yourself builds your identity and elevates your self worth as a person. The third thing is practice saying no, not aggressively, not rudely, just clearly. I can't do that. Don't over inconvenience yourself because you want to please someone else. If it is not convenient for you to do, it is not. Say no and don't be apologetic about it. And also prepare your mind to receive no. Train your mind to understand that when you're not comfortable to do things or when it is not convenient, you don't do it. And when it is not convenient for other people to do things for you, it's also normal. It's part of life. And then learn to move forward from that. And the first thing is surround yourself with people who see you clearly, not people who celebrate you only when you make an achievement, not people who want to be part of your life only when you're winning, not people who need you to shrink yourself so that they can feel big, not people who need you to shrink yourself and be small so that they can shine, but people who see you for who you truly are when you're winning, when you're not winning, in the good days, in the bad days, when you're struggling, when you're achieving. People who see the whole of you and choose to stay. Those kind of relationships are mirrors, and the right mirrors will show you a version of yourself worth growing into. You're not behind, you're not broken, you're not an imposter in your own life. You are a person who has been handed an incomplete map and has been doing their best to keep it together. And the fact that you are here asking these questions means that you are further along than you even think you are. You don't have to have it figured out to be worthy of the life that you want. You are worthy right now exactly as you are, in the middle of the mess, in the middle of the hardship, in the middle of the unfulfilled dreams, in the middle of all the chaos that is going on with you. You are worthy. Thank you for watching this episode. If this episode meant something to you, share it with someone who needs to hear that they are enough. Leave a comment below. What is the one thing that you're still struggling to believe about yourself? Let's build a conversation together. Next week on episode 11, we are talking about something that is affecting adults more than anyone is admitting: stress and burnout. The deep bone level exhaustion that sleep does not fix. What causes it, what it costs you, and how to actually recover. That is next week, and it's going to be a powerful one. You don't want to miss it. Until then, be gentle with yourself. You are still becoming, and becoming is beautiful. Take care.